On January 29, 2006, the quiet streets of the Riyadh Salam neighborhood in Agadir, Morocco, became the scene of a chilling discovery. A group of garbage men were going about their usual route when one of them approached a roadside bin, expecting the routine sight of refuse. But when he lifted the lid, he froze. His wide-eyed stare drew the attention of the garbage truck driver, who climbed out to see what had his colleague so rattled. There, in that ordinary trash bin, lay the severed head of a woman. Panic swept through the crew, and soon the police arrived, their sirens cutting through the morning calm. With them came forensic experts and dogs trained to track missing persons. The search began, but hope dimmed as all they uncovered in a nearby vacant lot was a single hip bone. The next day, January 30th, 2006, the police intensified their efforts. This time, their persistence paid off. Behind the Al-Castellani private school, they stumbled upon a large trunk. When they opened it, a grotesque sight awaited. The torso, arms, hands, and feet of the same woman were packed inside. Her body was rushed to a forensic hospital in Casablanca for a full autopsy. The cause of death was strangulation, and she was identified as Rajae K, a 34-year-old woman originally from Safi. She had been a prostitute, and tragically, her body had been dismembered post-mortem. Disturbingly, forensic scientists found traces of cat hair on her remains, an eerie detail that only deepened the mystery. The Agadir police knew this case had to be their top priority, especially because it felt chillingly familiar. Just a month prior, on December 27, 2005, another grim discovery had been made on a road leading to a cemetery. Inside a burlap sack lay the body of a woman. She hadn't yet decomposed, and her wrists were tied behind her back. This woman was identified as Meriem, a 31-year-old. She too had been strangled and sexually assaulted before her death, her body dumped like discarded trash. And like Rajae, Miriam's body bore the same unsettling trace: cat hairs. It didn't take long for the police to connect the two cases. Two women killed in eerily similar fashion, both with the presence of cat hair on their bodies. Agadir had a predator in its midst, and the hunt for this killer had only just begun. With Rajae's murder fresh on everyone's minds, the Agadir police wasted no time in following the leads they had. Since hers was the most recent killing, it took precedence. Their investigation led them to a local cafe frequented by prostitutes, where Rajae had often spent her time. When officers questioned her fellow workers, a chilling detail emerged. On January 28, 2006, the day before her dismembered body was found, she had been approached by a man no one had seen before. This stranger, who introduced himself as Abdelhak, had asked Rajae to come with him to his home in the Benzagao neighborhood. To entice her, he offered a bottle of whiskey and then whisked her away on a red moped. That was the last anyone saw of her alive. Armed with this description, the police quickly realized that Abdelhak was none other than Abdelhak Toumi, a man already known to law enforcement. Toumi had a dark and violent history that stretched back more than a decade. Born in 1966 as the youngest of 4 siblings, Toumi's early life was marked by hardship. After his parents divorced, he and his siblings were left in the care of their mother's ex-husband, a man who did nothing to raise them. The children were abandoned emotionally and left to fend for themselves. Toumi struggled in school, failing the 5th grade twice before being expelled in 1979. But what made Toumi truly notorious wasn't his troubled upbringing, it was his murderous past. On June 26, 1994, during a blistering heat wave that gripped Agadir, a couple sought refuge beneath a tree. As they relaxed in the shade, they stumbled upon something horrific: a half-buried human skull. Horrified, they fled and alerted a young passerby, who in turn called the police. The area was excavated, and what they uncovered was the complete skeleton of a woman. The remains were sent for autopsy, and the body was identified as that of a thin white woman, dressed in a white shirt and striped black and blue pants. The search for missing persons matching this description led the police to the case of a 34-year-old waitress named Fatima, who had been reported missing on June 15, 1994. Fatima's co-workers described her as someone who occasionally accompanied customers home for the night. Following this lead, the police tracked down one of Fatima's friends, who provided a bone-chilling account. She revealed that she had met Fatima's killer and had barely escaped with her life. The man, she said, had not only confessed to killing Fatima, but had also planned to murder 5 prostitutes in total. She had survived only by fighting him off, throwing sand in his eyes and hitting him with a rock. The man she described was none other than Abdelhak Toumi. When the police raided his home, they found incriminating evidence: a grey handbag, jacket, black shoes, makeup, and birth control pills, all belonging to Fatima. Toumi, however, was nowhere to be found. He had vanished, becoming a fugitive. For 2 years, he evaded capture until 1996, when he was finally found, injured and defeated after a failed suicide attempt, and taken to a hospital. The police wasted no time once they tracked down Abdelhak Toumi at the hospital in 1996. When questioned about Fatima's death, Toumi spun a tale of regret. He claimed he never intended to kill her, insisting that she had suffered a heart attack after he struck her, and he buried her body out of sheer panic. His story didn't quite fit the brutal reality, but the court took his words into account. The Court of Appeal of Agadir charged him with assault and battery leading to death without intent to kill, along with rape. For this, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, in May 2004, after serving only a fraction of his sentence, Abdelhak was released on good behavior. He seemed to be on a new path, marrying his cousin, who became pregnant with his child in late 2005. But beneath the surface, the darkness that had once consumed him was still there, waiting. By January 2006, the police were once again on his trail after the gruesome murders of Rajae and Meriem. When they went to question him at his home, Abdelhak was gone. But what they found inside spoke volumes. A red moped, the same one described by witnesses when he had taken Rajae, was parked outside. Inside, the police found a cat whose hairs matched those found on both Rajae's and Meriem's bodies. Bloodstains marked the floorboards, adding to the mounting evidence against him. Neighbors revealed that Abdelhak had fled to Tantan while his pregnant wife was staying in Rabat. Armed with this information, the Agadir police quickly relayed the details to the authorities in Tantan. On February 11, 2006, the police arrested Abdelhak just as he was about to enter a cafe. He remained silent during his initial interrogation, refusing to speak a word. He was swiftly extradited back to Agadir, where the local police painstakingly presented the damning evidence against him, piece by piece. But even as the weight of the evidence piled up, Abdelhak remained stone-faced and silent. It wasn't until February 13, 2006, that the pressure finally broke him. The relentless pointing out of every bloodstain, every detail, every hair linking him to the crimes, wore him down. Abdelhak confessed to not only the murders of Rajae and Meriem, but also to the 1994 killing of Fatima. His earlier story unraveled. He admitted that Fatima's death had not been accidental. He had strangled her with a scarf. In the days that followed, Abdelhak reenacted each crime for the police, showing them exactly how he had carried out his brutal acts. His trial came a year later, in February 2007. During the proceedings, he shocked the courtroom by demanding the death penalty. But instead of granting his wish, the court found him guilty of 2 counts of murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment, leaving him to spend the rest of his days behind bars.